I had to give up some. Adil, Marshall, you're here. Adil, can you step in? I want to watch the game. I've got it on my phone at the moment. So I need someone to step in while I watch the game. La ilaha illallah. Bismillah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Dr. Saab, any pressing issues that that are worth discussing first, or should we just go into any questions that come up?
Let's just answer that first one because they seem keen to get that answered, and then there are a couple of issues that maybe we can chat about. So this question is about that they've heard two opinions for when a fast in Ramadan is broken by masturbation. First one is by the Ustad who says that there is qada and kafara due. And the second one from Seeker's Guidance by Shaykh Yusuf Welch, where the majority of scholars say that there is only qada due. Can they follow any opinion as they're both valid? And the qada one will be very much easier for me as I go to school as well.
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. I'm surprised at that detail there because there are two opinions that I know of in the madhab, and it's not those two opinions. Allah, Dr. Jav, I know you've been studying for about 40, 50 years. So, all right, I'll knock it down a bit. Okay, 20 years. And you study with everybody.
I never claimed to be paying attention though for 40 years.
Yeah. So yeah, from my recollection, there's two opinions in the madhab. In Al-Hidayah, for example, the author states that there's no qada or kafara. It doesn't actually require anything. And that's stated in Al-Hidayah. But then in the commentaries of Al-Hidayah, like Fath al-Qadir, he states there's qada required, but no kafara. And that's the stronger view. Qada is required, but no kafara. So I don't know where, whoever your ustad is, I don't know where he's got that view from qada and kafara. And kafara makes no sense whatsoever. Like when they look at kafara, they said, shahwa kamila, that its complete sexual desire has been fulfilled. And that's only through sexual intercourse. So the two views that I know is no qada, no kafara. That's in Al-Hidayah, but that's not a stronger view than what you mentioned rightly there. Seeker's Guidance, Sheikh Yusuf Welsh has mentioned. That's the view of the majority of the Hanafis, which is qada is required. Wallahu a'lam. Clear?
Right, let's talk about the beard. Got a beard question here.
Yeah.
Let's the opinion that a lot of people are familiar with in terms of the Hanafi madhab is that it should be a fist length.
Yeah.
Yet, we see people with less than that, and I think therein lies some confusion. So where is the fist length coming from?
There is no clear statement from the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the length of the beard. There's no clear statement from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He never spoke about the length of the beard. He just mentioned that he kept the beard. But then we find from certain companions that they mention al-qubda, that the length of the beard was a fist length. So that's where the whole discussion about fist. Interesting, some outside of the madhahib, outside of the four orthodox school, they go the literal view that there's nothing from the Prophet about the length, which just means it grows indefinitely. And sometimes you actually see some weird beards, like you just go down to people's knees and toes. You know what I'm talking
about? Yeah.
And that's because the reason, I mean, they tend to be literal in their approach. But within the Hanafis, and in fact the majority, they say qubda, it's a fist length. There's a debate even about where the fist length measurement starts from. Is it from under the lip? Is it from under the chin? And those are both valid views.
And if you got like chunky fingers, obviously it's going to be bigger, isn't it? And whose fist? Whose fist? Could you take a child's fist as a metric?
Yeah. So the general stated view amongst the Hanafis is to have a fist length is wajib. If somebody's able to keep a fist length, it is wajib to keep a fist length. But then at the same time, there are some Hanafis who hold the view it's sunnah rather than wajib, so it's not sinful. And the view the majority, Shafi'i, Malik, and Ahmed, is that it's sunnah, it's not wajib. So there is a valid discussion across the madhab and within the Hanafi madhab as to the length itself. And the key thing here is not to be rigid on it. Understand the mas'ala. There's clearly stated views on this. But then, as with all matters, if any one of the four orthodox imams have stated a different view, then we have to respect that. Allahu A'lam.
I heard that.
Sorry to interrupt there. Just to add one further thing. Like when I asked our teacher Sheikh Samir and asked the question on one occasion, he quoted to me what Shaykh Hadib Kallas rahimahullah ta'ala said. And for those who are not familiar, Shaykh Hadib Kallas rahimahullah ta'ala, he passed away around 2008 or 9. He was considered one of the two greatest Hanafi scholars of this generation that just passed in Syria. And when he was asked about it, he said that the beard, in terms of the general practice of religion, is like a salad with a meal. It's like the salad to the meal. It's part of the completion, but it's not the essence of what religion is about. It's part of the completion. Like your meal, you can get away with a meal without salad, but it just adds something more to the meal.
But I think, I mean, it's kind of, people have gone a little bit extreme on it to the point where, for instance, I know in some of our local mosques, they don't mind if you can't read Al-Fatiha with Tajweed, but they do mind if you don't have a beard, and they'll put them forward in favor because of the size of their beard and the length of their pants over people who know the ahkam of prayer and the ahkam of Tajweed. But it's, you know.
Can I just also add on to Adil Qadus? He's made a point that isn't the beard length clear from the Shimal of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes to someone in a dream / wake state, doesn't he have a fistful beard? First of all, again, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam never told us a fist length beard. That comes from certain Sahaba. So even when you say clear, the length is clear from the Shimal, it's not. From the Shimal, it's not. It just says lihitun katha. This is a thick beard. And then there's further descriptions that does indicate that it's a fist length. But hadith qawli, a clear statement from a Nabi that it's fist length, isn't there? Well, most of the Imams do say that because of statements of certain companions. And yes, the Prophet, when he does appear in dream states, he does appear in with a fistful beard. But as a mas'ala of fiqh, that's not a clear categorical basis to for a ruling. Wallahu a'lam.
I've got an issue that I want to raise with you, if you don't mind. Recently, I think was it yesterday, there was a press release about how a massive new mosque is going to be built in which place was it? Blackburn.
Mm-hmm.
By two brothers who have recently taken over Tesco, billionaires. They own loads of petrol stations. I mean, as a business story, it is pretty phenomenal what they've achieved.
Yeah.
But how do you feel? Because Muslims, number one, are celebrating them. Like, look at this achievement by Muslims. And then secondly, my point is on people getting excited about a mosque that they're going to build. How I mean, because I've got issues, you know, I've mentioned them to you about that.
thing.
Yeah. No, but it's not about them. They're just people, right? Doing what people do, right? And they're not the only ones. Probably the majority of Muslims do whatever they want. But the issue is the Muslim community reacting and making it an Islamic thing or getting excited about it. I mean, because there are some concerns, aren't there?
Yeah, there are concerns. Yeah. Allahu alam, if they're successful and assuming, inshallah, that a significant portion of the wealth came from halal, then inshallah. The problem that I have with that is that people make that as a measure of success.
Yeah.
People think in the Muslim community do wonderful because you've got a couple of billionaires who've gone and bought out Asda and so on. Like, is that a measure of success? That's more for based on language of prophecy, that's more a measure of failure, that is. I was so immersed and engrossed in making money that when somebody comes and does that, even the hubb dunya is a root cause of all evil that's blighted in this nation. It's the love of this world, it's the love of money. So you could actually say that's a sign of failure rather than a sign of success. And mashallah, building a masjid is a great thing. It's a great thing, like waqf. Wherever Muslims historically have had significant wealth, that's what Muslims have tended to have done. So that's a blessed thing to do. But my only concern with that is to see that as a measure of success in the Muslim community.
But how does that imam, whichever imam ends up leading in that mosque, how does he go on to the minbar and tell people, the youth, the adults there, don't sell alcohol, don't get involved in this, don't get involved in that, have a halal? How does he do that when the mosque itself is funded and built essentially by people who basically made their money with those kind of transactions?
Yeah, but was all of their wealth built upon those? Just a
No, I'm not talking about fit. I'm talking about the way the mind works. Because a young lad is going to say, well, these people are respected by the community. They're celebrated by the community, and they had no problems buying and selling, right? I'm talking about the way the mind works, the psychology of it, and you don't really. It's very difficult for us to say, well, no, you can't. They can because they're super rich, but you can't.
Yeah. I get that point. Allahu Akbar.
Okay. If my water supply to the house is turned off, can I do tayammum? I've relatives who live about just under a mile away. Do I have to go to them for water?
If the relatives live under a mile away and there's no difficulty in going and asking them, like, in the sense that you're free to walk in and out of their house, that then because you have access to water within a mile. So then in that case, then yes, you would have to. Allahu Akbar.
Adil wants some du'as for his exam. Have you revised, Adil? Yeah.
Adil's not revised on micro for 3 years. He just said the micrometer said he's got questions about Dar al-Harb and riba. That's all he's asking. Any questions that he asks about interest in riba, he's banned. He's banned. In fact, he's banned from asking any questions, full stop. Where are we looking?
Okay, so right, I live too far from the mosque to hear the adhan.
Yeah.
But we have an adhan clock which recites 5 times. When my oldest son leads his brothers in Jamaat, should they just recite the iqamah or repeat the adhan?
It's good for them to do the adhan. So even though, first of all, Afwan, that needs a bit of clarity there, because when you say that you live far away from the mosque that you can't hear the adhan, what do you mean you can't hear the adhan? Because here we don't have an adhan out in the public. Do you mean that if the adhan was done from the top of the masjid, you're too far away? Because if that is the case, if you live like miles away from a masjid where no adhan would be able to reach, even if it was done publicly, then it's sunnah mu'akkada. If there's a jama'ah take place, then it's sunnah that you do have an adhan. Listen to the adhan in the house isn't enough.
Some people have receivers though, don't they? I know some mosques, they do the adhan and people who have the receiver for the mosque can hear it.
That's not enough. Like hearing the definition of hearing isn't through a receiver or microphone. It's like if somebody stood on the masjid and the natural voice, how far would that go?
Yeah.
So if you don't live in the vicinity of the masjid at all, then just being able to hear it and like being streamed through, that's not enough. Because there you could argue, right? I've got a live stream from the haram. Isn't that enough for me as well? Like that's not the requirement. So Allah.
A little bit of nepotism here, because Baji's asked the question. So
your Baji?
Yeah, my Baji. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the boss.
Is this a Scottish fella?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, it's good, man. So Baji's asking, she's got questions about chicken. She was stunned to find, I don't know whether that was a pun or not, she was stunned to find that there are no local butchers which sell halal, non-stunned, organic, free-range chicken. And she's managed to source a whole farm, it seems, by the way she's written it. She's managed to source a farm which will sell live hens. What are the rulings with regards to the slaughter and feeding of the birds prior to slaughter?
Because it's Baji she's asking you the question, right?
No.
Or will she ever listen to the answer from you?
Yeah, of her many excellent qualities, she takes nothing from me. Yeah, mashallah. So
yeah. Allahu a'lam. Yani, there really isn't much that will make an animal haram to eat, like a chicken. So there's a highest standard in terms of what you want to feed, but truth, it doesn't really matter what you feed that chicken. A chicken is a halal animal. It doesn't matter what's fed to that chicken. So what you're talking in terms of organic, in terms of like not being injected with chemicals, that's all a different discussion. In terms of halal and haram, doesn't really matter what's fed to that chicken. It's lawful to eat.
Yeah. So what just because another brother asked me this, what are the things that you need to do when you're slaughtering exactly?
There are certain confirmed sunnahs to make it tayyib, to do in the best way. You take it away from other animals, and then you keep the blade, or you ensure the blade is sharp, and you don't show the blade until the very moment of sacrifice. You lay it down with chicken like facing the qibla is preferable, and then you say the tasmiyah, bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and then you sacrifice. That's pretty much it. It's really true.
So a friend of mine, he's got quails, so they're pretty small. So is there a point where you can cut too deeply and then it becomes haram, or if you intend to only cut so far but it accidentally cuts too deep, it's still okay? What's the situation?
For example, what's mentioned is that if you sever the neck completely or the head completely, then it becomes makruh. But it still doesn't make it haram to do that. When we're talking about halal haram, it doesn't make it haram.
Right. So Mitchell's got some good questions. He's in touch with some non-Muslim asking some questions about religion, especially paradise. The first one is, if people are sinful by nature, then basically no one is righteous. Then how can we enter paradise? And the second one is, people who continue to sin and continue to turn to God are forgetting about God's forgiveness, it seems the non-Muslims are not content with the fact that people cannot stop sinning. I'm not sure I understand that second one.
What's your answer to that? What do you think?
Well, whatever we do, in terms of we enter paradise bi rahmatillah, that's always been the case. And there's the famous incident of story of, I think, a man from Bani Israel who worshipped for 500 years, and on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah said, "Enter paradise, with my mercy." And he goes, "Ya Rab," he goes, "Bi'amali," with my actions. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells an angel to demonstrate to him and the favors that he's bestowed upon him and mankind, to take one of his eyes and put it on the scale, and all of his actions for so many hundreds of years on the other side, and the eye alone outweighed his actions. So then he goes, "Ya Rab," goes, "Birahmatik," with your mercy, I'll enter Jannah with your mercy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Allah is the most merciful. I mean, His mercy is such that it confounds the mind. When you see how merciful Allah, humans will think, "Nah, how can this be forgiven?" But it's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we do believe in righteous people. The statement that there's no righteous people. There are righteous people. This is what our teachers tell us. But
I think also, to add on to that, the point of mercy is essential. In fact, we just had the class in Tafsir Surah Yasin before, and that was a point that we focused on. But in addition to that, it's ultimately the struggle to overcome the weaknesses within the self. And that's what Allah spends rewarding people for. So no one is righteous, and everybody has a sinful in nature. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted. And then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that if you did not commit sin, Allah will replace you with the people who would commit sin and repent.
Yeah.
So the fact that people have that within their nature, why does that stop Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placing them, God Almighty placing them into paradise, when He wants it that way, that He wants them to overcome their sin, and He rewards them according to that.
So I hope that helps some way with your contact. Where are the greatest scholars worth visiting and learning from today?
Wakefield. Do you want to share for everybody here?
But seriously, I know we joke around calling someone a sheikh and this and that, but I think we need to remind ourselves who the true scholars are, because I think call it we got muftis who are barely baligh these days, and we've got and it's just ruined.
What are you saying about me, mate? I've got white hairs, mate.
No, but we've got we kind of lost the how high a level a sheikh truly is, or how high a level a mufti really is.
How high a level in what? Don't tell me. Don't say in knowledge. That's not the real.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about it's a whole package, right? It's a whole package. It's their connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, connection to the Prophet, the connection to the science. And when I say connection to the knowledge, it means understanding the knowledge and applying the knowledge.
I don't start to that because I like that word connection. The connection. They are connected and they are connectors. Like that's the key element. Yeah. They're people who carry true knowledge, or it's something they carry within themselves, and they also take people to Allah and the Messenger. And I get the point that, unfortunately, especially in the West, in England and America and Canada and places like this, we're getting misled by the simplest of all people, just because religion has become entertainment for people. They're still there across the Muslim world, even though they're getting scattered now. Yemen, they have them. Syria has them. Turkey has them. Go to Pakistan, they're there. The Haramain, the Hijaz, they're there. They're there across the Ummah. They're there across the Ummah. The truth is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hides them from the masses, from people who've turned away from Him. And when people don't want knowledge and don't want guidance, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بِغِيرَتِهِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He hides them. And then ignorant fools who mislead the masses, they become the guides of the masses. But they're there. Now, you want specific to what place and what town and you want to address it and so on. That's not the point here. The point is that if you remain connected to true guides, they will connect you. And all the teachers that are here in England or in America, whatever, their role is to connect to the connectors. That's what their duty is. And when you start seeing somebody here, because we're in the outlands of the Muslim world, we're not in the heartlands, we're in the outermost part of the Muslim world. These are not the centers. These are not the centers. So you're not going to find the highest level. So when you start finding somebody here in England, the Americans who are making out that they're the highest of the high, and you fall for that, then you're the idiot. You're the idiot. Like, they should be connecting to who they took from. Allahu, and they're there across the Ummah. They're there. They'll be there until nobody wants them anymore. Allahu.
Samara is asking. It's about Christmas, in fact.
I was wondering about that. When's the Christmas questions coming?
No. But this is a good one. This is not like the jokers from last time. This is her mother. Their mother is a Christian, and she's elderly and suffers from depression. Is it wrong for them to go around for Christmas and give her gifts? She has no other family at all.
Give her gifts. Give her gifts on other than Christmas.
What about the day before Christmas?
The day before, the day after.
The day before, the day after.
Yeah, Boxing Day gifts.
Yeah.
Give her gifts other than Christmas.
No. But it's not. It's good to go around, right? You know, with the knee of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me just add to that. Like people have non-Muslim family members, just engage with them at that time. There's no issue with that. The issue is Muslims are doing that. And when the Muslims are putting up Christmas trees in the home, they got the Christmas turkeys and so on, making a big issue out of it. That's where the problem is.
Yeah, it's widespread now, right? I mean, I see that everywhere.
It's in the Muslim world as well.
Right, this is an interesting one. I'm scared of becoming a mother one day. I fear I won't raise a child properly, especially in this day and age. So, actually, that's following on from another question somewhere. But yeah, what advice would you give to someone who's fearful of becoming a parent, not just a mother, I guess, a parent?
You're a father to, is it 5 kids or 3 kids?
Yeah, 4 kids, 1 monster. So yeah, five in all.
Why do you have to turn there? Look, just to check how many there are. Are you sat there counting them?
Yeah, it's, I get a little bit shaky after 4. Yeah.
Okay, so what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you should. I mean, it's a good sign that you're worried about bringing up children in this day and age, but it's what we do. Everyone should be concerned. They should have some measure of concern. People's natures are different, so some people don't feel the fear necessarily, but we should be concerned about raising children. But we do our best, and as one of my teachers said, you try to bring them up properly, and even if they don't, and you can't guide someone who Allah doesn't guide.
Sure.
Even if you don't, you'll still be rewarded for having brought them up correctly and properly, regardless of what they do. And you've got to pray for them.
So I think that the point is that why are you worried? Is it worried because you have failings within you? Is it worried that you feel that you're not capable of raising them as a true believer? If that is your worry, then at what point will you be able to like, because it's a lifetime struggle to rid yourself of the worst qualities within a person. There's never going to be a perfect moment in your life where you say, now I'm ready to raise kids and bring up kids. Um, and in truth, the biggest worry is not yourself no more. It's everything that's around. Like, so if you're scared because of everything around, and you decide, I'm just not going to take the risk of raising unbelievers, or fair enough. But what Dr. Jawad mentioned, I think, is correct there. Just make intention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help you, and then Allah subhanahu will help you. Make a lot of dua, and then within the little oasis that you have control over in your home and the surroundings, just make sure that that you try your best within that environment. And after that, it's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar.
Oh, well, this is from Anonymous. Probably one of the best questions so far. What is the fiqh around cakes made into human or animal figures?
Allahu Akbar.
The quicker you eat them, the less of a problem, right? Presumably.
Yeah, it depends how tasty they are.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the question there is about like the fact that you're making a figure, human and so on. But yeah, Allahu Alam. I'm not going to say I don't know the answer to that. Allahu Alam.
Okay, so Islamic wills. This is a question on how one goes about writing an Islamic will. And is there a certain way of making one in accordance with English law? Quite an important question, to be fair.
It is. There's a lot who provide this as a service now, like Islamic wills, because there's a big market out there. There's a big need out there. When you say in accordance with English law, I think the key thing is that it's binding according to law. So it's actually a fairly straightforward thing. It's any type of any will, standard will, you can just put in details there, just simply to say that when I die, then I want my wealth to be distributed according to Islamic Sharia law, and that becomes a binding will according to English law. So it's a fairly straightforward process. Just find most solicitors or most legal firms in Muslim communities and cities that they will offer that service. So that's all you need to do. You don't even need to go into specifics about how many you are and so on. And without getting too detailed into it, there's there is a need there. There is an important need there, because in Sharia, in Islamic law, the inheritance shares are automatic. It doesn't need a will. A will is not about the inheritance shares. The will is about the 1/3. That's what a will's about. The 1/3 that Allah has given you as a right to use for whatever you want. Inheritance shares are automatic, but because here it's not automatic and it's the next of kin or the nearest relative who will receive that, then there is a need to put that into a recorded document. Allahu Akbar.
This is another common situation people find themselves in. So the brother's asking, or saying that they often feel depressed, and they feel that they have unfulfilled, or they haven't managed to fulfill their potential. In their late teens and early 20s, they wanted to study and learn the deen, and one parent gave permission, the other parent didn't, various reasons, so they didn't end up going. And now they find themselves at the ripe old age of 35 with 3 young children, working, and I think they're feeling that their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the messenger, or not being able to know them in greater detail, is affecting them. They're trying their best to find an Arabic course. Shaykh Haroon, there's a person searching for an Arabic course and get started, but they don't feel that any doors are opening for them. Basically, yeah, that's the crux of it, and it's not an uncommon situation.
The course that we do will add to his depression rather than relieve.
Yeah.
Asadullah, if you're anywhere near Liverpool or Huddersfield, then you're welcome to come and join us. We have an Arabic course.
And he will cure your desire to learn Arabic. That's all I'll say.
I won't cure your depression. I'll probably add to it. We'll be hounding you every day, just making sure that you're speaking Arabic. Well, now, mashallah, look at like Dr. Javid's done it. He's done about every course in Islamic history, and then he came and joined us, and now he's challenging Sibawayh and Al-Farra and he's challenging the masters of language. So yeah, so you're welcome to come and join. If you're anywhere near the north of England, you're welcome to come and join us. If not, just make dua that one day we'll put it as an online course. When the likes of Javid like step up and are willing to start taking their responsibility on board.
I ain't giving my zakat of Arabic. Yeah. Okay. Lockdown restrictions again. In order to follow the law and protect other relatives, especially vulnerable ones, to preserve, in terms of preservation of life. But other people are not observing the rules because they argue they're trying to fulfill the sunnah of visiting and maintaining ties. So which one is best?
Ya Sheikh, Doctor, are you into conspiracies, or do you believe there's something real going on?
Well, there's definitely things real going on because people are dying. People even that I know, one brother from the mosque died recently, and regular attendee of the mosque, even during lockdown, from what I understand. And he died of COVID. And he's the type of guy that, if it wasn't for COVID, you wouldn't really expect, other than him to make it through the year, you weren't really expecting him to pass away, really. He's not so old. But and I don't know, it is a real thing. It is a real thing. Just ask the people who've lost relatives.
Sure, agreed. So there should be some care. There should be some care there, some caution taken. Arguing about losing the son of visiting and maintaining ties, that's a lame argument, that is. When there's definitely, irrespective of whether there's a conspiracy or irrespective of what's caused all of this and whatever the reasons are, clearly people are dying. So in a case like that, there has to be caution. There has to be caution that's applied there. Wallahu a'lam. No.
Yeah. There was a question last week, in fact, not question, a comment about vaccine and there being fetal cells or cells of dead fetuses inside the vaccine. But we didn't respond to it then. But just to make it clear, there isn't in any of the vaccines. There are various people who've gone to lengths to explain it, but this is the kind of situation where people who are not informed and have no knowledge and start speaking about it and start whipping everyone else up into a frenzy. It's not healthy. Prophet ﷺ himself said that in worldly affairs, some people can have more knowledge. I don't want to recite it, go through the hadith in particular, but there are a couple of hadiths which indicate that is the case, and we need to learn from that and take that ishara that when the best we can do is maybe just ask people who are experts in this field and not listen to someone who knows nothing about any of it, even if they're a shaykh.
You're great, you are.
No, it's important because
I totally agree with you saying, like, there's too many amateurs who suddenly become experts and people will follow them because they have an expertise in another area. And just from my own, when people come to me and ask me about depressions and about medical issues, just go to the experts. Like in gym problems, go to the experts. Like everybody should know their own boundaries and limits. And also people shouldn't, people should also know people's boundaries and limits. Allahu Akbar.
Okay, we've got a pet question. I buried my pet bird today. Is it obligatory to bury animals when they die? Do they go to Jannah? Or will they appear when people of Jannah wish for them?
First of all, why did you pronounce that buried? Do you say that? Because I know I've always had this issue. You know, is it Bury or Bury? The town.
Bury.
I always thought it's Bury. Like we buried that person. We didn't bury that person, right?
You can. Bury is definitely fine, but bury, I think that's just another. It's just a regional thing, I guess. Don't ask me which region.
I just found it weird that you just said I buried my pet. Is it because there's a double R in the question?
No, I don't know why I said it like
that. You know that question, mashallah, jazakallah khair. Let's assume you're an adult, but the brother of Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik, Abu Umair, Abu Umair ma fa'al al-Nughayr. He's crying when his little pet bird dies. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam consoles him. Oh, Abu Umair, what did the little Nughayr do, the little bird? What happened to it? So he was upset when his pet bird died. But yeah, so birds don't enter into Jannah, pets don't enter into Jannah. It's only mentioned there's only a handful of animals of this world that enter into Jannah. Amongst them, like Salih of the Naqa Salih, the she camel of Sayyidina Salih that came out of a rock. The shat, the sheep that Sayyidina Ibrahim sacrificed instead of his son Ismail, and so on. There's only a handful. But at the same time, there are animals that are created inside of Jannah. So inshallah, you might not get to see your pet bird inside of Jannah, but you'll have pet birds inside of Jannah. Allahu
Akbar. Someone was making the case for Jummah being done over Zoom. Is this even a thing?
No, it's not a thing.
Any other apps would make it a thing?
Any what?
Any other apps would make it legitimate?
It's not legitimate. It's not a thing. If you want to do that, then why don't you just listen to the Jumu'ah from the Haram of Mecca and start praying your Jumu'ah prayer with that? That's absurd, that is. And I know there are people who are saying that, but it's absurd to say that. And there was a fatwa, just a weird fatwa that came out of Ireland, this like council of something or other out of Ireland, claiming that it's valid to do that. That's total nonsense, that is. No. There is no Jumu'ah. You pray the Dhuhr prayer.
All right, a couple of quick questions. Where is it now? Yeah, is a married woman allowed to use the pill?
With the agreement of a husband. There has to be agreement to the husband. Because he may want to have a child. And it's his right to have a child, just as it's her right to have a child. So, with the agreement, both of them have to agree to it. Allahu Akbar.
Okay. There's another one on marriage. I can't find it now, but it was basically asking what's the best way to go about sort of getting married. If you found a person, do you introduce them to your siblings first and then your parents, or do you go straight to the parents?
Depends.
Or straight to Felicity House for a quick nikah.
I did one today, actually. Yeah, you're always welcome to come. I'm always ready to do a nikah anytime. The nikah has been made so difficult for people, and zina has been made so easy for people that even though some people have problems with this, nobody's going to stop me doing it. It's just getting people out of haram is more important than anything else. So, yeah, But yeah, it depends on the dynamics of your family. So if your relationship with your parents is clear and you're able to just go straight to them, and there's an open relationship, then the way I look at it, the earlier that you get your parents involved, the better. The earlier the better, so that nothing is underhand, nothing is beyond, everything is done out in the open. But if not, if that can't work, then if it needs involving siblings because they're of a generation where they'll understand you and your potential partner better, then so be it. Then go there first. Whichever one works, it's all good.
What about registering your marriage in terms of with the authorities? What do you say about that? Should people do it?
I advise to do it. It's not. Oh my word! Have you seen what's happened there? They've gone to score. It's all over me. Forget that. It was a good goal, actually. Watch. Anyhow. No. Yeah, so
Shaykh, snap out. 3 seconds of mourning for football, not 3 days.
I can't believe that. What was the question then? Oh yeah, civil marriages. Generally, I think it's a good option. It's a better option, but I don't. There's no Islamic legal requirement that it has to take place. Like a nikah is valid with or without a civil marriage. That's just for the sake of recognition that marriage by according to civil law here. So there are certain cases where there is a need for that, particularly around the woman having some legal rights here. There are also some problems with that as well. It gives the woman the right to half of his property should anything happen to him. So there's a downside to that as well.
Within marriage, what's the this is sort of in relation to another question. What's the primary roles of a husband and a wife? And is this sort of mentioned anywhere in the fiqh books? And then, and are you accountable for and sinful if these roles are neglected?
You're a happily married man of 50 years or so. So go on, Bismillah, you answer that. I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm meant to do.
Yeah. So I think let's listen to what you have to say, and then I'll add anything. If I have any other wisdoms.
There is a duty for both husband and wife. There's a legal responsibility, and then there's also like a broader responsibility. Legally, the husband is required to provide for his wife and his children. And providing here is not just like nafaqah, it's not just financially. It's to be, in a sense, almost like the guide for them. You'd be questioned about how they are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of their worship and so on. So there's a responsibility there, financially, spiritually, many levels. Like the man is meant to be the man of the household. He's meant to take responsibility. He's the Amir of that relationship. He's the leader within that relationship. The woman has a duty, has an obligation to obey her husband in anything other than haram. A legal responsibility not to refuse him in terms of intimacy, not to refuse him. And then after that, there is certain social duties in terms of like the home, making a home, raising the children, so on. That's not a legal obligation, but that's more of a social etiquette, social norm. Wallahu a'lam. Failure to do the legal obligations, failure to perform the legal obligation is sinful. Like for a man not providing for a woman, refusing to be intimate with his wife, that's where it falls into haram and sin. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, we have a few questions about Allama Khadim Hussein Rizvi, who recently passed away. Allah give him Jannah. And they want to know whether you heard of him.
I've heard of him, yes, I've heard of him, but in terms of the ulama of Pakistan, I don't. Oh my word! Have you seen it?
I'm not looking now.
Don't look now, because it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really follow. I don't really follow because I don't understand Urdu fluently. You do, so I'm not able to speak about specifics, but like with Allama Khadim Rizvi, like there's a strong push in terms of blasphemy laws and in terms of honoring the person of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beauty, even though there are those who are critical of the way that he went about it, but that Labbaik movements in service of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as a concept and as a principle, it's everybody should be in, should have that, like the Prophet's central to everything that we do. So the honor and esteem of the Messenger sallallahu has to be the highest level. So if nothing else, they're just pushing that concept across Pakistan and across the wider Muslim world. That's an amazing legacy to leave behind.
Women cycling, is any prohibition about that?
Some of the ulama, some of my teachers that I asked, they consider it to be discouraged, but not categorically forbidden. Others considered it lawful. Allahu
Akbar. Christmas Day, are we allowed to have dinner that would normally be made when there's a da'wat?
Yeah. yeah, it's all good. Just having a dinner and so on, and also it's holiday time, so people are getting together. But having the turkey out there and so on, and saying that's normal, imitating the unbelievers when it comes to something like that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, there's definitely something in the water supply, because we've got another sort of relationship, marriage type question. Can I meet up with a potential spouse, or would their wali have to be? I think they mean by themselves, or would their wali have to be present?
There should be. It may not be the wali, but there should be some type of like chaperone there. Just a couple meeting together alone. So even if it's public but alone, that's not how it should be done.
There's been a few cases of abuse as well. I think even through marriage sites. It's not the marriage sites themselves, but I think when people connect with people, I think we all need to be careful.
Yeah.
Especially the married brothers that are crawling all over those sites.
Have you been? What's it
called? No.
Muzmatch. Have you been on Muzmatch?
No. No. I didn't even know about it until you just said it. Yeah.
I'm not told about it.
Maybe you can tell us later. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. This is from Fatima Meherban. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Hope you're well, inshallah. I was asked, is there a makruh time for reciting Quran like there is for Salah?
Is that Khatib? Allahu Akbar. Where is he? I can't see him. Khatib.
9 minutes past 9.
Oh, let's track of this. Is there a makruh time? No, there isn't. Simple answer, no, there isn't. Some of the Hanifis, they said the makruh times of prayer are also makruh times to recite Quran on the basis that Quran is a rukn of Salah. It's an obligational prayer. But that's a lesser opinion. The Mu'tamid, the stronger opinion is there's no makruh time for reading Quran. Allahu
Berry, everyone's saying it's pronounced berry.
I've seen that, yeah. Let me just jump ahead. Can we say RIP, etc. for non-Muslims, rest in peace? Simple answer, no. No, you shouldn't. So we shouldn't be saying that. No, we shouldn't. Like based upon our iman, ad-dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir. There is no peace for the unbeliever once he's died. Saying rest in peace, no.
Was it? I can't remember whether it was you or another teacher who said that what do you say to non-Muslims when someone has died? I mean, do you have any tips on what you say to them?
There is something I remember. I think I forgot. It was in a class at the end of, so Ibn Abidin and others, they mention a ta'zi, a condolence to offer to non-Muslims. The key thing in there it says that you do not say, well, ghafara li mayyitik. You don't say, and may he forgive your deceased. So the other things about like, may he make your loss easy for you and so on, that's all fine. That's all fine. There's no problem in praying for a non-Muslim just to have an easy life in this world and not to go through sufferings and so on. That's not haram. The haram is to pray for something that Allah said will not happen, which is that they're praying for their forgiveness and pray. So just as long as that part's not in there, then there's no problem.
Yeah. Any tips on saving yourself from sins, particularly like, girls and masturbation and things like that?
Occupy your time with goodness. Just fill your time. Try not to be alone. Try never to be alone with a female. لا تخلون بامرأة. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, never be alone with a female. ولو كانت صالحة ولو كنت تحفظها القرآن. Even if you're teaching the Quran, never be alone with a female. So I've got a young child and he's just walked in at the moment to that question. Just 1 second. In addition, if you read the word, Allahu Shahidi, Allahu Hadiri, Allahu Nadiri, Allahu Ma'i, just keep on repeating that. Allah witnesses me, Allah is present with me, Allah is here with me. Keep on repeating that, so that there's some sense of muraqabah and not to succumb to the lowest desires. And in a sense, put around you that protective system. Fill your time with goodness. Try not to be alone. And just keep on reminding yourself of the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Our dear brother Hassan Masood is asking, is muzmatch halal? Then an emoji with either a smiley face or a wink or something excited. You got him going now.
I don't know, just one brother in Felicity House was telling me about it today, so I've got no idea what goes on there.
Yeah.
It's just a halal dating site, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. No idea.
So behave yourself. I know you're a young lad, so you behave yourself, mate.
Okay. Can I just revisit that question about the pill? Does it make a difference if it's there's two types of pill, isn't there? There's a pill that changes a cycle so that they don't fall pregnant in the first place, and there's a morning after pill or something. Is that does that make any difference, or is the same ruling applied with the permission of the husband?
Yeah, the morning after pill's okay.
Yeah.
That's not it's at the very beginning of conception, so it's not really of significance.
Okay, Surah Mulk.
Uh-huh.
So obviously that's a surah that we recite as a wird at night time. So the question is, can we read Surah Mulk in Isha prayer with the intention to be saved from the punishment of the grave? So like 2 for 1.
Absolutely. And Imam al-Ghazali suggests that, he advised that. I think he says in the sunnahs of the prayer. So absolutely, yeah. Because when the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about it, he did not specify that you must be out of prayer to read it. It's just at night before going to sleep. And so reading an Isha prayers night before going to sleep. Allah.
Okay. Illegal downloads. Shaykh, what can you tell us about that?
I'll have to stop that myself first before I can answer it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll look into that, and inshallah, next Q&A, inshallah, I'll come back with something on that.
Take your time, Shaykh. Please take your time.
Have you made your top?
So, rings, exchanging of rings in marriage, which is it a must? I don't know. But the question is saying the exchange of a ring is a must in marriages nowadays. Is there any religious significance?
I didn't know it was a Muslim. There are many Muslim marriages where it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's definitely not. It's definitely number one. It's definitely not from the Sunnah. It's definitely adat ghayr Muslimin. It's the way of the non-Muslims. Can we accept it? There's a more stricter view that says that any practice of non-Muslim can't be accepted. But when you coexist, there's a lot we take on. So there's no clear hurmah, there's no clear nas or statement that would indicate that as being haram, other than tashabbuh of ghayr Muslim, other than imitation of non-Muslims. So it definitely would be better to avoid it, but at the same time, we can't say it's prohibited. A lot of stuff around marriages is not from the culture of Muslims. Like now what's become common is honeymoons, engagement parties. You can justify them to a level. Wouldn't say it's haram, but a lot of that's not the habit of Muslims.
Have you been to a stag do, Shaykh?
I beg your pardon?
Have you been to a stag do?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
A hen do?
Bum bum.
Okay. Important question. Calculating numbers of prayers missed. The question is saying, I've got a rough idea when I started 5 daily prayers, but not sure when I was baligh. What's the best method of praying salah and calculating if you're not sure when you're baligh?
The Hanafi state, if you're not sure when you're baligh, then you work it to the lower level. So for a boy, that'll be 12 years, 12 lunar years. For a girl, that's 9. So you go to lower, out of caution state.
Okay. And there was another one. This is a really great question. In your years of teaching, what is the one thing you see in students that you feel inhibits their spiritual or Islamic growth? And what advice would you give students in general, especially those who are no longer at micro? MashaAllah.
Do you want to take that call?
Sorry, my deputy's got it.
The most important thing is that however much or however far that you go in your studies, that you always maintain a connection with your teachers, and that you have a real sense of khidmah in that khidmah service, in that you lower yourself in front of them, and you take them as people who show you a pathway to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So both while you're studying and after you finish your formal studies, never lose that connection to your teachers. The moment you lose that connection, there's so much dangers that come with it, because then the nafs becomes so prominent. And knowledge is one of the most powerful fuel that can be poured onto the ego. So the ego needs to be tamed by being in the presence of people who will help and guide you.
Got a few Arabic questions as well. Any cartoons you can recommend for Arabic learners?
Go on. What have you been watching?
I love Kaslan and Salahuddin. They're brilliant. Salahuddin's great. It's one of those that you got to watch it over and over and over and over again, and you find you'll eventually pick up more. But they're entertaining as well. It makes it a lot easier to watch.
And just to add to that point, I mean, like students who are studying in year 2, year 3 of madrasa, I just keep on sending them stuff to watch. The important thing is that if you're learning Arabic, just keep on watching and listening. Doesn't matter what it is you're watching, as long as there's half Arabic there. And just keep on. You just got to get your ear accustomed to the language. The more you hear it, the more familiar you become with it, the easier it is.
I don't know what's going on at the moment, but I've had so many questions about lobster recently, and also in these Q&As we've had a couple of lobster questions. Is lobster tail haram?
For the Hanifis, if it's not fish, then it's not allowed. And lobster's definitely not fish, full stop. For the others, they can eat pretty much anything.
Have you heard the opinion? Apparently, is a Shafi opinion. I've not heard it before, but someone mentioned recently that if it's freshwater crabs, they're not allowed to eat it.
Yeah. Freshwater mean it's not from the sea, right?
Yeah.
I was also told of opinion in the Shafi that there's a problem generally with crabs because crabs can survive on land as well as in sea.
Yeah.
So Allah.
Okay. As a Hanafi, can we follow the odd ruling from the Shafi madhab? Well, they said ad hoc, but I don't know what that means. So, can we?
Choosing. It means picking and choosing. Ad hoc just means randomly picking and choosing.
All right. Okay.
Behaving like a Salafi.
Right. Can we follow an ad hoc ruling from the Shafi madhab, i.e., women having very short hair or copying hairstyles of non-believers?
Generally, if you're taking the position from another method and you yourself tend to stick to you're a student of a method and you're trying your best to follow that method, bearing in mind, you study to practice, you learn to practice. You don't learn just to find other ways of doing things. Like, if you're learning just to find the easiest option, then just go and do whatever you want. Don't bother learning then at that point. Because usually most things that you do, you can find a fit without justifying. So you learn to practice. If there's a genuine, real reason where you need to take another opinion, then speak to people of knowledge to see whether that's a valid opinion. It shouldn't be ad hoc. That's ittiba' an-nafs. That's not ittiba' al-ilm. That's about following the nafs rather. That's about following the ego rather than following knowledge. So be careful with that.
A couple of questions. Want to know your opinion on COVID vaccine.
My opinion.
Your opinion, and should they take it?
My opinion is that it's a vaccine, and then it's to do with COVID. I don't know. What does that my opinion mean? Doesn't mean you should take it. I wouldn't, but I wouldn't say some real, unless either there's some real confirmed medical need to do it, or which is possibly will happen, that they'll enforce it upon the populace that they'll have to take it. Allah.
Oh, good question from Shaykh Ibrahim Hussein. Can a person pray Salatul Istikhara not for a specific matter, but rather for general guidance? So not for a specific thing.
Just general guidance and matters. Yeah, there's no harm in doing that.
Is messaging a woman considered khalwa? Could I message one-to-one to find out more about marriage?
You should be careful with that, because that can easily escalate and get out of control. Allah.
Yeah. Are we allowed to give beggars and homeless money if we think it will be spent on intoxication, or should we just give them food?
Ghalabat al-dhann. It's based on if it's likely that will happen, then it's haram to give. Then it's haram to give. And then yeah, just food. So yeah, so be careful with that. Like homeless people here or beggars here, where it's fairly where you're fairly certain that will happen, then you shouldn't do that.
Qasim's asking, if wrestling is halal, can I play wrestling on my PlayStation?
Sound like Qasim's got what's the latest one? The 5. They don't sound.
What's it like? I don't know. I've never had a PlayStation.
That came up a couple of days ago. If Qasim is a Hanafi, then no. If Qasim is something other than a Hanafi, then
yeah. Okay. What is a debt to Allah? What does a debt to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mean? A good friend of mine who has passed away now has given £10,000 in life insurance. Is there anything I can do for his rectification? Paying this amount in sadaqah, would this make a difference for him in the grave, in the afterlife?
If that person was paying life insurance and he's received that money now that he's passed away, then you should give that away sadaqah, just to correct the wrong that he did. Because life insurance is bil ittifaq, by agreement, is haram. Life insurance by agreement is haram. If he was paying that and that's not come through, that should be given away to protect him from punishment for the wrong that he's already done while he was alive. Wallahu a'lam. What are you saying, Doc? There's 5 minutes left. We're still 2-0 down, and it doesn't look like we're going to. It's all good. We're through anyway. It's all good. Your mic's on silent, so I don't know.
Just do a couple more.
I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about the fact that we're losing,
Yeah. I told you should have mourned in private. Now the whole world is watching you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that means we're doing the session, right?
Okay. I lost a family member to cancer. I'm not sure about the etiquettes of visiting the graveyard. Is there a surah that is more preferred? Do you give salams to all those resting in the graveyard? What is the best time to go?
So yeah, the best time is as regularly as possible. The Prophet's messenger's advice to go as regularly as possible. Read Surah Yasin, give salams when you enter. Assalamu alaikum ahla dari qawmi. Give salams to them gently, and read Surah Yasin. Yasin is the most effective. Allahu Akbar. Can I just quickly? I'm just going to quickly fire off some answers here. So, salams, back to the first question: is masturbation forbidden? Yes, it is. It is, but the question was specifically about fasting. That person fasting does. So yes, it is. It is haram. Allahumma salli alayhi. Should a woman who's 30 and already with one child try and expand the family with another child? Or should she prioritize seeking sacred knowledge and realistically she struggle with keeping up with her Islamic studies with a newborn and a toddler and no family support at all? That depends on her own situation and also about the wishes of her husband. If her husband wants to have another child, then they should have children. And then she should prioritize that over furthering her Islamic studies. When talking about furthering Islamic studies, we're talking after Fard Ain, because Fard Ain is always the highest priority. Learning your obligatory is always the highest. Allahumma salli alayhi wa else. Sorry, I just want to quickly move through some. So 9:12 p.m. I have a thick question. I learned that any amount of impurity in a small quantity of water renders the water impure and not suitable for wudu. Is mold that grows in a wudu med considered impure? No, it's not. No. Mold and moss and stuff like that, that's not impure. What does Islam say about blaspheming the Lord in Pakistan and the extreme views people seem to have taken the Lord into their own hands? Blasphemy laws, that's Sharia. Anybody insults a Nabi or insults any of the prophets or insults sacred symbols of religion, then that person would be put to death. So that would be there within Sharia. Vigilantism is something slightly different, and that's not something that's condoned, but it still wouldn't mean that, yeah, no, it's still been changed. What is the Zahiri madhab, and is it a Sunni school of thought? Yes, it is. It's the way of Dawood al-Zahiri. Strange, it's a strange madhab. There's a lot of strange features within it, but Zahiri is not an issue of Aqeedah. It is a madhab of Ahl Sunnah. For brothers wanting to get married a second time but cannot due to financial circumstances, is there any hope for them? Is the answer to find a woman who forgoes their financial rights? No, what's the there's a verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he speaks about getting married and Allah will provide for you. So fear of risk should not stop a person getting married or having children. What should parents do if their son, daughter, or more so their daughter wants to marry someone who's unsuitable? What is the best approach to take? Father and mother should try, especially father, should try and facilitate marriage. Should try and make it easy. Where they think it's not suitable, if it's down to, if they feel that he's not going to take care of it, he's not going to provide for it, so that's valid grounds. Other than that, like not suitable to us because of the caste, because of the background, because of, then the parents should. If he's a, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Tardawna dinahu wa khuluqah." If somebody comes to you and you're happy with his religion and his character, fazawwiju, then marry your daughters to him. If you don't do so, takun fitnatun fil ardi wa fasadun kabir. There'll be fitna, and the fitna, ulama said, is zina. The zina will become widespread. And that's what's happened. Our parents don't allow the children to get married because the parents don't consider them suitable. Zina has become common. Can we get involved with Christmas traditions at work with non-Muslim colleagues, i.e. Secret Santa, etc.? No, we shouldn't. We're Muslims, we're not Christians. And even though many Christmas practices they're not directly connected to religious points, but still, we're Muslims. You should always remember we're Muslims, that our honors in our Eid. We have our festivities. We should associate ourselves with symbols of our religion. How long after performing wudu do we need to wear our leather socks if we intend to wear them? There's no time period, as long as you put them on in a state of wudu. Can we make dua for non-Muslims? And if not, can we make dua for them and wish that Allah guides them on top of that? Yes, you can. Yes, you can, provided it's not about forgiveness, and you can make general du'as. Allahu Akbar. I think that's pretty much most of it.
We had a question about Yasmin Mogahad. Do you know anything about her? I think they're asking whether.
No, I don't know. I've never watched anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll watch something of hers, but I don't know.
Salatul Ishraq, and it says Salatul, I think maybe Duha is meant. Are they the same or?
No, there's an overlap. The Umum and Khusus. So Salat al-Ishraq is the exact name given, and it's in the lawful time. That's Ishraq. From that point all the way up until before Dhuhr, all that is Duha. So if you pray the Ishraq, you have Duha. If you do Duha other than the beginning, you've not done Ishraq. So there's an overlap there. Allahu Akbar.
How does a female student stay connected to her male teachers? A fair point. That's.
First of all, they should maintain boundaries. The fact that he's your shaykh or teaching someone does not remove boundaries in Sharia. So always remember that your teacher and your shaykh is still very mahram to you. And then it's in terms of making dua, continue to study and continue to pray for them and so on. Continue to receive guidance, both education and spiritual, from your shaykh. Allahu Akbar.
If someone's doing istikhara for marriage, do they need your date of birth, parents' full name? Does this make it more specific? Someone has asked for these details.
That's not needed. No, it's not needed.
are you allowed to know the sex of a child before it's born?
There's no prohibition in that. Wallah. We'll finish with that, inshallah ta'ala. In 2 weeks' time, we'll continue. And hopefully, there won't be a game on in 2 weeks' time. Just to spoil the atmosphere. Jazakumullah khair for everybody.
Jazakallah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.